Hey, this is Madeline Sklar.
And Suze Cooper, and you're listening to All Things Audio.
Well, we've got lots to talk about, so we're going to just dive right in. Suze and I have been really busy catching lots of interesting tweets going on, and I just shared this in the nest. This was a tweet I had discovered right now. South by Southwest is going on in Austin, Texas, and there's a lot happening with Twitter Spaces out there we'll be talking about today. But what was interesting, I saw that Mark Cuban, the Mark Cuban from Shark Tank, and he's also like the owner of Dallas Mavericks and all kinds of things. He's a big deal. And he was sitting in a booth. I'm going to show a picture of that in a moment. He was sitting in a booth that they created at South by Southwest in Austin where people could sit into, it's almost like a recording booth. Isn't that what it looked like, Suze? Like a recording booth? They made these little mini single person booths.
Yeah, it did. It did look like a little recording booth. Or I was actually going to mention it looks a bit like an old-fashioned phone box.
Yes.
Like over here, we would have like a BT glass phone box. Once they got rid of all the traditional red ones, we had these kind of rather cheap and nasty modern-looking glass things. And it looks like one of those. And the fact that it's kind of a phone box, but it's a Twitter Spaces phone box. I wanted to get in one of those. I want to be at South by Southwest hosting a space in a phone box. I so do.
It would have been so cool. I would have waited in line for like an hour just to sit in that and do that. We've got some really interesting tweets with pictures of it that I can't wait to show. But what really drew me to this is I saw the photos of, people, celebrities, and just some other people doing that in those boxes. And I went to do the playback of the one Mark Cuban did. It was called Shark Space with Mark Cuban and Twitter Spaces. And I was shocked to see, and you'll see in the screenshot here, I have a big red arrow pointing to it. It says 246,000 people tuned in. That's amazing. I mean, that really shows you the power of Spaces now, that you could have hundreds of thousands of people listening. And that is so powerful. What's your thought of that, Suze? I mean, I feel like Twitter Spaces has arrived.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen hundreds of thousands of people tuning into Twitter Spaces previously, but these are spaces that have gone on for a long time. They're spaces that perhaps have been set up and run over days. Clearly Mark Cuban did not sit in his South by Southwest phone box for days. Like, he spun up this space. He's started, the space up and had a chat. And it's a huge number. It's a massive number. I just think it really shows that you're still hearing a lot of things about, social audio was a pandemic fad, Clubhouse, what's that called? Who's got it still on their phone? All of that. I'm sorry, but if you can get 246,000 people tuning in to listen to something on a social media platform in that way, I mean, I understand he's got a massive audience to leverage in order to broadcast his message to. But, I don't see how you can say that you think this is a fad and it's going anywhere.
Absolutely. And I'm going to grab this tweet because Legion just tweeted to me an FYI on the very first day when DirectCon had tweeted out a room that had 285,000 unique listeners. So I'm going to put that in the nest real quick because it's just phenomenal to me that here this started out as so few people had access. It was not very public. It was hard to find rooms. And it's evolved so much in the course of a year. Like, it's amazing that we're little over a year into Spaces being fully up and running, and that it has grown so much because it was slow going for quite a while. And now it's big, and I'm just blown away. And I have a picture in the nest that shows Mark Cuban in one of those booths, and then another one where it shows a couple of ladies sitting in it. I guess it looks like they have two of these, next to each other that people could walk in and have no noise. It just seals out all the outdoor noise and they can be inside. And they got the professional microphone set up. So it looks like they're recording these as a podcast. And then you get on your phone and do a room in Spaces. So super cool, super exciting. Love to see all this.
There was some super geeking going on. Myself and Michael at Audio Mentor, who's often joins us here on All Things Audio, were geeking over the different connections that we could see coming out of people's phones while they were in these photographs doing spaces. Because in one of them, it looked like someone was using a USB connection to a microphone. And that's something that neither of us have got to work, and we've both been kind of fiddling around with the tech for a while. So yeah, there was some proper audio geekery around like zooming into pictures and trying to see how they were connected and what connections they were using. And it's crazy how, you're trying to glean a bit of information from everything that you see about these social audio spaces. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. And I know we've talked before about how Twitter Spaces is working on a new analytics page, and there's some new screenshots. Nima has posted one where we can see a little bit more of what they're working on, kind of a behind the scenes. I know for many of us that host rooms, we would like to have more analytics, more metrics, and that would just be super helpful. And also Alessandro Paluzzi, he also does a lot of behind the scenes, and he has a tweet in here as well showing, what it's going to look like, what they're working on. So it just makes me really happy to see that Twitter is investing time and energy into making Spaces analytics broader, fuller, better for those that host rooms, because this is helpful to us. It's a way for us to know how well is our room doing, how many people are listening live, how many people are listening to the recorded replay. How many speakers did we have total? Like, I find this information super helpful. So I'm really thrilled that they're working on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great start, seeing these screenshots. And I'm not surprised by the layout of it or anything else. It fits very well into exactly what I expected them to do for Spaces in terms of analytics as a first step. I really hope they broaden out on this, though, because while it's great to see that, tuned in, how many people you've had there as a speaker, how many listeners you've got, there is also a depth that I would like them to go into. I'm not sure they're really going to, understanding the other analytics that they give you in terms of, a video tweet, say, or even just a normal text or picture tweet, for example. But, I kind of feel like I need more. I want to know how long people have been listening for. I want to know, the handles of those people who've been attending, the number of links that were posted while we were live and what the click-through rate was on those. Those kind of things appeal to my data geekery, and I want to know them. I'm fairly sure, and I know already, we both know that there are very clever devs who are out there creating third-party apps that will give us those extended tools. So yeah, it's just whether or not Twitter's going to hear that people really want that and whether they want to invest their time in giving that kind of premium level of analytic, or whether they're happy for the API to kind of be used and for us all to go elsewhere and potentially pay a premium for it. But yeah, it's a great start, and it's good to see the reverse engineering wizardry once again. I do love it.
Absolutely. And then some other interesting stuff we've talked about before, that Twitter is working on this new podcast tab, which we're finding to be quite interesting since you and I are podcasters, and we love that they're coming up with some ways to integrate this all together. So Jane Wong had this tweet talking about this. What are your thoughts about this, Suze? What do you think? What are you thinking with this?
Yeah, so Jane's screenshot shows that the podcast tab looks like it's going to be a feed of episodes shared by people that we follow through tweets. So, for example, when we tweet out our link to our All Things Audio podcast, Madeline, that would automatically go into someone's podcast tab, and they would see that within their tab along with anyone else that has tweeted out a link to their own podcast. So it's kind of a place to categorize anything that's kind of a podcast in one place, which is very useful and is very nice of them. Again, I think they can do more, and I hope they do. But this is a great start. It's a good way of showing that they are clearly listening to the fact that audio is huge. It's massive. It has exploded. I mean, podcasts had already exploded before the pandemic. Now they most definitely have gone bonkers. And, this shows that they are listening, they're watching, they know the climate of things that are going on, and they're going to invest in it in some way. So, yeah, I'm excited to see this. I wonder, there's bound to be those that are perhaps featured or ones that are recommended, potentially, you might be able to sponsor, a post about your podcast and therefore get more reach as a kind of advertised podcast within that tab. Who knows? I'm sure there's all kinds of different ways that it's going to be used. But I think it's a great start. I still see that there's a way of tying in Spaces audio with it, obviously, as well. Like we're creating the podcast and we have the replay, which is like instant podcast fodder, straight off the back of as soon as we leave this space and close it out. So I feel like that would be a great place for it to disappear into as well. Although I guess people will argue that's the Spaces tab and that's what it's there for. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm super excited about this. To at least know that they're working on something for this geared with podcasts. Now, I have Twitter Blue, which is that subscription service. I pay $3 a month to have all these additional features. And one of them is called Top Articles. And it'll show you the top articles that people you follow are tweeting. And it seems to me that that's what this is kind of modeled after. That people you follow, if they're tweeting about podcasts, that it would show up like this. So like you can discover some interesting podcasts that your friends listen to, which I think would be really neat. But the question is, how will this be integrated? Where will we find it? And you found a very interesting tweet that kind of answers that question, which I'm putting into the nest for everybody to see, from C. We don't know her real name, but she goes by the letter C. She's a designer with Twitter Spaces. And you want to share what you found that she tweeted? Because this is interesting.
Yeah, sure. So C at Work has basically said in her tweet, "For your information, this is just an internal prototype for testing. No plans for yet another tab. Laugh out loud." I'm not sure I believe her.
I know, but the thing is, when you look at this mock-up from Jane Wong, there's a lot to look at in the tabs. That's like too many tabs. And people were complaining. They were like, that's too many tabs. Like it's overload. So I don't know. I'm not sure how they're going to incorporate this in, because it is a little too much when you look at the screenshot of how Jane Wong was showing this.
Okay, so let's get pedantic. What C's tweet says, no plans for yet another tab, with those words capitalised. Potentially, will they combine podcasts into a tab somewhere? Possibly. That way we don't get another tab.
Possibly it could be incorporated. Right. It could be incorporated into Spaces. Maybe their bigger view of this is that Spaces, instead of the tab being just for Spaces, it's more of like an audio component. Like this is the place for audio. And then once you're in there, here's podcast, here's Spaces. Maybe it's going to be something like that. Or because I have Twitter Blue, if I want to go see those top articles, when I'm on desktop, I have to click on more. And, they add it when you're on desktop and you click more, they've added a lot of stuff in there. You got Twitter for Professionals in there now. If you got the newsletter feature like I'm using, that's a whole nother thing. Twitter Blue is in there. There's so much in here now. Topics, lists, community. Once you add communities, it goes in there. So it's possible that it'll just be another place. So not necessarily, for mobile, it would have to be some kind of tab. I don't know. It's hard to say.
I can't believe they won't be doing anything with podcasts. We brought up again last week. They bought Breaker. They've obviously got this interest in audio and in pushing that further. Whether this is going to see the light of day for the public or not, they're spending time on this and effort internally to think about where podcasting can fit. Twitter aren't going to drop this. We might not see it soon. It might not be its separate tab. But they're thinking about it and they're trying to work it out. And I think, we're definitely going to see something from them around podcasting.
Exactly. And that's what we're excited about. We could speculate all day, where will this show up? But really, we're just thrilled that it is something they're looking at, something they want to do. And hopefully soon we'll find out, exactly how they plan to implement it. You came across a really interesting tweet from Legion. I see Legion's here. Maybe when we're ready to bring up speakers, we can hear from him about this. But you want to talk a little bit about this because it sounds quite interesting.
Yeah. So this is the trend that went round over the weekend, whereby it was spotted but in several places that people were sending out memes and then basically copying a Spaces link, totally unrelated to the meme, into that tweet, And it seemed to be cheating the algorithm in terms of getting engagement. So a lot of these posts, these tweets went viral and got a heck of a lot of attention. Interesting. Legion's tweet kind of refers back to the fact, is this just a coincidence? Has someone cracked some kind of algorithm secret by using the Spaces link? Did that push it further? I mean, I've got a few thoughts on this. I think we say it time and again, discoverability for Spaces is rubbish. I mean, we send out our links all the time and it doesn't have that effect. I wouldn't say that a tweet with a Spaces link in it for me has any further reach or engagement really, sadly,
Right.
than another tweet, a link, anything else that I might put out there. So it seems kind of crazy that would have been the reason why these have gone viral. Personally, I think there was hype around it. People went, oh, look, this is happening. Oh, look, it's happening because of that. Oh, quick, like that because I know what you're trying to do. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Oh, look, retweet it. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Look what they're trying to do. And that has basically generated this over excitement in this particular tweet, which happens to have a Spaces link in it. I mean, I'm so interested in what your take on this would be, Madeline, because I just don't see it.
I don't know. I mean, it could be, has to do with the photo, the meme or GIF you put in there, and that's attracting the attention. And then there's, the link. I don't know. It's so interesting, but kind of odd. So I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of this. I'm with you though. We're always promoting rooms and Spaces. I don't see some big spike by having the link in. So I don't know. Maybe Legion can talk about it later and give us some insights that we're missing here. But it is interesting and worth noting, like something's going on there. And if it is probably a bug of some sort, and I'm sure Twitter is already working to fix it, because I'm sure the last thing they want is for people to do these random tweets and throw in a Spaces link just to get it to get high engagement.
Yeah, well, apparently there was work on it over the weekend, and by kind of Monday morning, it wasn't a thing anymore.
Okay.
But I still kind of feel like potentially the hype around it is what caused that viral spike and not actually the link in it. Because if it was the case that we could make Spaces links go viral, you, I, and several other people in this space right now would definitely be sending them out all the time to get people to join our Spaces, because we put a lot of time and effort into the content that we put into them, and we'd love to have more people here to hear that. But, it just doesn't seem to be the case that if you put a Spaces link into a tweet, it gets more attention than anything else.
I agree. So interesting tweet you put out several days ago about UK journalism on Twitter Spaces from an article you found?
Yeah, so this is from UK Press Gazette website, which is one that I look at quite often. And I suppose it's kind of this idea that I often get the question, well, who's using Spaces? Who is using social audio? Give me some names. And people want to hear like big brands and all of this kind of thing. And I guess where it's really started is that news outlets generally are using social audio a lot more to reach people, even if bigger brands maybe aren't at the moment. What this article does, it's not only a really nice kind of précis of social audio and what it is and how it can be used, but it also looks at those different outlets that have been using Spaces and questions them on why, why Spaces, why put the news content there. It seems really that they're after that newer audience that might be on social audio. And also they're feeling like it's a more engaged audience on social audio as well, which is really interesting. And this idea that, you can hear from the people, literally hear from the people who are writing the news, who are working on the news. So, a lot of these publications are still print publications or online publications. They might have a podcast, I guess. But in terms of social audio, as we've said before, it just opens up real life conversation on these topics. And, certainly with things going on in Ukraine at the moment, the crisis going on there, and the war and the reporting that's come through, the different messages that have come through via social audio, we can see that journalists really see the value in being able to reach people using this new medium. So, yeah, a thoroughly interesting article. I found it really interesting, and I hope everyone here will too.
Yeah, you always uncover some really interesting ones. And now we've got Clubhouse news. That was a lot of Spaces news we had this week, but there's actually a little bit you wanted to share with Clubhouse. I'll queue up this first one.
Yeah, so Clubhouse is introducing, in the process of introducing, I think over kind of the next 24 hours, the wave bar, which is another new way of striking up a conversation with people over on Clubhouse. This is going to be a bar that's at the top of your screen in the Clubhouse app. I think not dissimilar to our space bar over here. And the idea is that you'll easily be able to see who's online from the people that you're following over on Clubhouse. And you can wave at them to start up a room with them without having to open up the sidebar, which I believe was like a left or it was a swipe anyway, a left or a right swipe. I think it was a right swipe previously, where you could kind of see the list of people with the little icon to say whether or not they were online right now or how long ago they'd been in a Clubhouse room. So instead of that, you'll be able to see all of that information, I believe, in this wave bar. So yeah, I'm sure there will be people for and against that. Whether or not you want to be identified as being on there quite so in your face to everyone that's following you, I don't know. And whether or not it's going to get annoying if you're on there and you're listening to something and someone's waving at you and you've got to deal with that instead of like listening to whatever it is you're on there to listen to. It might not be an ideal user experience. But yeah, I'll be interested to hear people's thoughts on that, whether or not that's something that was people were crying out for over on Clubhouse. I'm not sure, but it's something they're going to give a go.
It's an interesting idea for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's, once again, it's all about how can we keep people on our platform, isn't it? And I guess if you've just come out of a social audio room and you've just been listening to something and you spot somebody there who you haven't caught up with for a while or you've been trying to get hold of and they're online, then why not keep them within the platform longer to have that conversation rather than them going elsewhere and catching up with that person another time. So, once again, it is all to build up those hours that we spend on these apps. But yeah, whether or not it was needed, as I say, question mark.
So now I have something really interesting I came across today. So there at South by Southwest, which I mentioned earlier, is going on right now in Austin, Texas, is a huge, huge event where they have everything. Like right now, it's all digital marketing. They do a film festival. There's a music festival part coming up. So lots happening with digital right now. And I came across this lady was live tweeting from a room yesterday. The room was called Social Audio and Sonic Branding. And they had somebody there from the Twitter Spaces team, somebody from iHeartRadio, and a few other SXM Media. And this other one is CMI Media Group. And I found this to be quite interesting. There were several tweets. This lady did a thread, and a couple of these tweets really grabbed my attention that I wanted to share with you all because it just really reinforces the power of social audio. So this first one is a quote from the guy at iHeartMedia saying, "Trust is built through the voice. In the end, voice will be how we know something is real and authentic." And I love that. And he even goes on to say that on the idea of this in the metaverse, we're hearing a lot about metaverse, Web3, NFTs, all that stuff. The metaverse, they're saying the only human analog in that is going to be voice. So it's going to be really interesting to see how all that's going to play out with the metaverse. And then the other tweet was from Spaces saying Twitter Spaces is new. So there's a lot of changes coming, which, we're seeing all the time. We've introduced recordings and this is what grabbed my attention. There's a new feature that will allow you to tweet out clips of the audio, and that's coming soon. We want to create longevity for the assets. Super excited. What was your thought when you saw that, Suze? Because that's pretty exciting to know because that's what Clubhouse does, right? They do clips.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's kind of a little gem in that tweet, isn't it? That tells us a little bit more information than we knew before. Having clips would be a really good addition, I think, to the social audio spaces over here. What I also think about this tweet as well is that sentence, we want to create longevity for the assets. To me, that feeds straight back into that conversation we were just having about podcasts. Because I really feel like that's the work that they're doing in the background. So yeah, really exciting to hear that we may be getting clips very soon over here on Spaces. I just think that will open up an awful lot of opportunity for people to hear what's going on within these different spaces and the content that people are putting together for them.
Right. And these tweets I'm showing you all is a great example of not only using branded hashtags or good hashtags for a particular, like this is definitely from social audio. What I did is I was just reviewing tweets today that have the hashtag social audio, which I do several times a week. And it's a way that I uncover stuff to share with you all here each week. And, if you're really interested in social audio, then that is a hashtag you should be checking regularly. And that's how I discovered these tweets from this lady, Rebecca Taylor, who was live tweeting from this yesterday. Had she not put the social audio hashtag, I would not have seen this tweet and been able to report to you all that we now know Spaces is working on a clips feature. And that's super exciting to know. The other tweet, the last one that really caught my attention, there's a whole thread of this. You can, go in here and see the whole thread. But this one really grabbed my attention when she said, this was a quote from iHeartMedia that she tweeted, and it said, "Brands are waking up. Marketers who are ahead of the curve are realizing how powerful audio is. There used to be a headwind, and that would have been a year ago, right? But now there's a tailwind of people wanting to step into the space." And so we're really seeing that social audio is growing and growing. And yeah, a year ago, it was so new. And I've seen lots of marketers like Susan and I who have really jumped on this and seen the power of audio. So it's great to see so many people are now jumping into this and seeing how powerful it is. So wanted to share that with everybody today. I thought those were some really interesting tweets.
We did have a tweet actually from Michael de Groot, who is often in the All Things Audio space here live on a Wednesday. And he said he has a question for us in the Q&A section. And I think it's one that everyone here will possibly be interested in us covering. He says, if someone's brand new to exploring social audio and considering there are already so many choices out there, what would be the one single platform you'd recommend today? Now, I think this is a really interesting, really good question to cover because it is certainly one that I've heard from other people. These different social audio platforms and apps are popping up all over the place. Social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, there's different places that you can go to have these conversations. So which one is the true best winner for social audio for you? Well, I don't have one answer, obviously, and I'm sure Madeline hasn't either. I mean, both of us would say Spaces because clearly we love it because that's why we're here every week. But I think in terms of answering this question, it's about thinking once again about your why. And I spoke about this a little bit with regards to podcasting last week, in that if, you're going to put effort into creating content for a social audio space or a podcast, you've got to know why it is that you want to do it. What's your objective and your goal in putting the time and effort into showing up somewhere? And then you need to think about where your audience is. So doing All Things Audio here on Twitter Spaces fits for myself and Madeline because that's where our communities are. That's where we already have people that are opting in to hearing from us, seeing our tweets on their timeline every day, every week, every month. This is where our foundation and base is. This might not be the right place for you. It might not be where your audience is. They might be on LinkedIn, they might be on Clubhouse, or they might be on one of the asynchronous social audio apps and, listening into things like Soundwave or Fireside or Racket. They might be elsewhere. So it's about doing a little bit of research and being savvy about where your listener, your audience is. And it's also thinking about where you can show up consistently. Like, what are you going to enjoy? What's going to make you think, yeah, I can do this, in a consistent manner? And I kind of say that, I guess, because I'm thinking in a more business or corporate sense of doing social audio and it fitting within an aim and a goal of doing something for a reason and actually having an end to it. Like that whole kind of, if you're doing it for business, have you got business goals that it can really kind of link into or aims that you're really trying to hit? Does it fit into your marketing funnel anywhere? Have you got like a call to action where you're going to send people off at the end of your social audio show to sign up for your emails or something like that? Or are you just wanting to do it for fun? In which case, go along and try out all of the different platforms and all the different ways that you can do this and find out which one you enjoy the most and do it there. So, I think there's a lot of different aspects to answering that question. What would be the one single platform you'd recommend today? It's the one that's right for you and for your reasons for doing social audio in the first place.
I agree 100%. Well said. I think if you're trying to figure out, where to start with social audio, I feel like Spaces and or Clubhouse is the easiest way to go. To me, it just seems like so much less work than going a podcast route. Podcast to me just can be, you can make it as simple or as difficult as you want. Really, it's really up to you how you want to do it. But I have found just hopping onto Spaces, when I started the Saturday room, which is Twitter Audits, I just literally said, hey, everybody, meet me at 2:00 on Saturday, 2:00 Eastern. I'm just going to start a room and let's just help each other make our Twitter profiles better. I didn't really have much of an agenda. I didn't really know. I just thought it'll just come out organically. And it was amazing. So I feel like that's something anyone can do. We all have things that we're knowledgeable with that we could share with other people. And to me, what an easy way to do it, just by tapping a button on your phone, whether it's Spaces or Clubhouse. I think that's just such an easy way to get started. And it could be a test ground to see if what you're talking about, if it resonates with people and you want to go further with it, then I think a podcast, like what we're doing here, we record this live and we turn it into a podcast. So we can expand beyond this content living just inside of Twitter.
Yeah, if you feel comfortable on a platform, then that is really going to come through in the way that you present and, you sound. And people are going to be able to pick up on that. And so that's another reason for saying, like, if your home is Twitter like it is for us, then spin it up here and have a go. As you say, it's in order to build an audience, that's what I'm talking about with consistency. Because as with podcasting, it doesn't grow overnight. But if you show up consistently, time after time, and it fits into that routine and that schedule and people know that you're there, then it does build up. But it takes time. So, yeah, it's kind of considering all of those things. But, yeah, great question from Michael. And really great that he thought to tweet us as well and ask. So, yeah.
Yeah. Great idea. So yeah, if you're not able to come to our room in person, but you have a question, do tweet it to us, because that was such a great idea of him to do. Sue's like, hey, I have a question. Could you answer it? Even though I can't be there.
I've invited Morgan up to speak just because he is our Clubhouse correspondent. Wave bar, Morgan. I'm a bit underwhelmed by it, if I'm honest. How do you think this is going to go?
Well, so a couple of clarifications with this wave bar. So it's for people that you are mutual with, right? So these are people you already have closer relationships or friendships with. So it's not that everybody who follows you can see this.
Okay. So I've misinterpreted what it said in the blog.
Yes, I'm not sure they made that super clear, but that is the idea. And the other thing is that when you wave at somebody now, and often you wave at more than one person, it starts the social room as the default. So it's not a way of like tapping somebody on the shoulder and saying, hey, let's have a private conversation. It's saying, come and hang out. And this is the two parts of this that are kind of interesting. One is that Clubhouse are really leaning into the social room as a core part of how you build friendships and relationships on the platform. And this is important in a couple of ways. One is that those friendships often end up with you creating rooms together, because on Clubhouse it's more of a group creation model. So you tend to create rooms like as you two do, as at least like a duo. So forming those closer friendships and finding who it is that you trust and who it is that has things in common or where there's chemistry leads to you then going and making stuff together. So leading into the social room as the core part of this is very important for Clubhouse. the other part, I think, is a really interesting small detail is that they're going to prioritize in this wave bar people who are friends of yours that have just come online. So you can see this helping Clubhouse because these people might be people who haven't logged on for a little bit. And when they log onto the app, you want them to feel like people they know are there. So if you do log on after not being on Clubhouse for a while, and somebody else that you're on mutual with is there, you're gonna see them at the top, and you might be able to have a quick chat with them and have this sort of warm introduction back again, I think. So that's one of the ideas.
Oh, that's really interesting. So it's almost like a welcoming committee for people that might have been away for a while.
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to be a little welcome room, and of course, the app is changing a lot. So that there is a very practical sense is that you might not really know what's going on, and somebody who's a friend of yours can say, come and do this with me, or you can now do that. But I think generally it's just the feeling like it's nice to see a friendly face. It's the first thing you see. So
Okay, I'm open to persuasion in it being useful. I'll see next time I dive in. That is if I have the option to even see the wave bar, which I might not have. So we'll wait and see.
Yeah, the update just went out, but I haven't installed it yet.
I reckon you'll have it, Morgan. You can come and tell us all about it next week.
Well, they do strictly do it by it's a random lottery. It's not they don't select like heavy users, I think. So
cool. Thank you, Morgan, for giving us an update there. That's great. Inviting Freedom. Hello. Welcome to All Things Audio. Please unmute yourself.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I just go by IF. And, I love your space. I've been following Dr. M around, and that's how I found you lovely people. Thank you so much, by the way. I have a list of notes that I've taken down just from this episode. And I even came late, and I have quite a few things. So I'm trying to utilize the Twitter space to, share my passion and, the things that I'm doing. And I find, guys, I'm not a business person at all, and I'm not a marketer. I mean, I've failed at like every type of business venture I've ever tried to do because I just can't. I have a problem, getting in that mindset. And I mean, so I completely envy people that I do have that, ability. So that's wonderful. But my question to you guys, if you can, I just started these Twitter spaces. Tonight is going to be my third episode. I'm just wondering, I have, like I said, I've taken a list of amazing points that you guys have already helped me with that I'm adding tonight that need to be done by the 7:30. But I was just wondering, what would your advice be? Just maybe one or two things, or maybe just one thing that you would look for that would keep you around in someone else's space that you're really not familiar with. I know I don't know if that's a good question, but what is something that you would anticipate, or what would keep you around? I guess that's my best question.
And it's a great question. I love it. It's a mic drop question. Firstly, don't be so hard on yourself. You're on episode 3. You're doing the thing. You're doing it. You're showing up. And, whether or not you've got a plan or whether you're just doing it for fun or to see what it's all about, you're doing the thing. So, yeah, don't beat yourself up. I think you're doing brilliantly. And you're here and you're talking to us and asking us a great question. So, yeah, in terms of what is the, I wish there was a magic wand in terms of what is the answer to keeping people sticking around in your space. I think it's interesting conversation. It's hearing real experiences from real people. It's the same as what makes people subscribe and want to listen to the next episode of their favourite podcast or tune into their favourite radio station. So radio, if we go all the way back into audio first and radio being a broadcaster, what radio and local radio specifically does brilliantly is make you feel like you're part of a community, is make you feel like they're just talking to you and but you're sharing this experience with lots of other people. And that's something that you can do when you spin up a space. I think the people that join All Things Audio every week, I really hope, feel like part of a community and feel like me and Madeline are approachable in terms of asking us questions about social audio. And, even at the top of this space, we actually started by saying, would the All Things Audio listeners like us to actually spin up a Twitter community? Because that's a possibility and something that we're open to doing, but we want to know if our community would like it. So it's about that, shared experience, a sense of community, and then, your content. If you're, if you're interviewing somebody, then preparation beforehand to make sure you've got, a killer question in there that's really going to hook people in and listen, all the way through to just having a chat. And just keeping that light and easy and knowing when to move on, all of those kind of elements of storytelling that people love so much within audio. Madeline, what would you add?
Yeah, I think my 2 cents on this would be that, when I look at on your Twitter profile and the purple card for today's show is Hex Kitchen episode 3, 7:30 p.m. Eastern. But I know we don't have much space to work with for the topic, but it doesn't tell me what am I getting into when I come. Hex Kitchen makes me think it's something kitchen related, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't think it's necessary to put the episode and the time into the topic. I think what will help keep people in is it's hard to use that space because it's so limiting. But if it could say more about what it is, so they know what that expectation is when they come in. And I think if they understand it more, it might just be, people just hopping from room to room to room. They're like, oh, this sounds interesting. Let me click and see what it is. And they're like, this is nothing like I thought it was. Now I'm going to leave. So, and this is just me, the marketer, talking because I'm a big marketer, been doing digital marketing since 1996, a long time. Makes me feel old. But that's just my thought when I look at this. The very first thing I think of is if you could say a little more, like when you look at what our room says, we have a branded hashtag because we feel like All Things Audio says what it is. And then Suze was smart enough to put social audio news at the end. So it lets people know that when you come to this room, you can expect social audio news. And I feel like people stay. I see people come in and they don't leave most times, which is great because I feel like they know exactly what this room is about before they tap the button. And I feel like that's important. But again, Twitter gives us such limited space in what we can put. For my other rooms, because I co-host 3 different rooms each week. So in addition to this, my Twitter audits on Saturday, I make sure it says what it is so people know that, we're reviewing Twitter profiles. And so people have that expectation when they come in, they know that they're going to learn a lot about how to make their profile better. And then on Thursday, my Twitter Smarter Chat is a continuation from our earlier Twitter chat, where Twitter chat is all about tweeting very fast in real time for an hour with just tweets. Then we move over to Spaces later in the day. So I make sure I put whatever the topic for that chat was, I put that into Spaces topic so people will know, here's Twitter Smarter, here's the topic. And sometimes I have to abbreviate it due to space, but I try to make it real clear what it is. So that's my thought on that. I hope you find that helpful. And it was a great question too, by the way.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you to all of our speakers who came on and shared so much great stuff. And we're available in all of your favorite podcast apps. We're out there, All Things Audio. You can also go to allthingsaudiopodcast.com as well.
You certainly can. And you can catch us here on Twitter and use the hashtag AllThingsAudio, and we'll pick that up throughout the week. So that's it for this week. But thank you so much to everyone that's been here in the space with us and those of you listening. And we'll catch up with you next week.
Bye, everybody.